This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
At the risk of being laborious or spending too much time and laboring over things and reading something that could be a little bit boring, this is Wretched Radio, or being redundant, repetitive, or repeating myself over and over again. We're sharing with you some new research. No shocker here that violent video games make kids more violent. Perhaps this will encourage you, Mom and Dad, to think it through. And the reason that I'm willing to be a wee bit laborious on this, a month ago, give or take, I suggested that violent video games have no place in the Christian life. None. Video games, I moderated my position on video games by simply qualifying video games. Rather than just saying all video games bad, I did some research to categorize them, to say there's video games where they can be games, the numbers games, playful, Pong, whatever, sports stuff. Go ahead, you've got discretionary time. Use those as you see fit, like you would with any other form of entertainment. Swell. I was talking, however, about violent video games, and the reason that I said that they just should not be used by the Christian, unless, of course, it's like military training or you're going out of the police force, fine, is because of the Imago Dei issue. We're talking about human beings here. And let's be honest, we have all experienced this. When you go to the movies or you see some show on TV, people getting shot is simply no big deal. Now, a dog gets hurt, and we feel that. What happened to us? We become Look, once again, I'm very close to dogs. In fact, there's basically one in my back pocket right now, sitting on most of my chair as I sit on the edge of my chair. I've got a dog that close to me. I'm sorry. Human beings more valuable than my pooch, which I love a lot. Human beings are far more valuable. What happened that we see a dog get wounded and it's like, oh, I can't watch those dog rescue videos. At least not the first 2 minutes of them. You've seen them on the internet. The dog is found in a sewer someplace, all full of mange, and they bring him in, and he's all shivery and traumatized, and then they fix him up, and now he's in a home. Give your money. While Sarah McLachlan sings. The beginning part, I can't watch it. Seeing a human being get shot in a movie. Pass the cheese wits. Or whatever the cheese product is that you happen to be. Cheese Wits. I think I like. Can we Google that? Do they sell Cheese Wits? Because if not, I'm thinking.
Cheez-Its with Cheese Whiz?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There you go.
I've tried it with the easy cheese. Not good.
Unless you're from Wisconsin. So why a lower view, it seems, of human life than animal life? Could it be because we have all seen so many people shot, butchered? We play the video games, and that simply compounds it. And it is a mockery of image-bearing. Human beings, whether you like them or not. Nancy Pelosi is an image-bearer of God. Yeah, I know. Nancy Pelosi. That means she has value placed on her because God values human life. We reflect God's image. That is a high, lofty, big thing. We're better than animals and trees and inanimate objects, PETA people. And so when we play video games, it just shoots them down, and we will use excuses like, well, it's just in warfare. Like, even warfare, the Bible never presents warfare like, woo, we get to slaughter a bunch of people. Unless, of course, it's in the book of Judges where every man did that which was right in his own eyes. War is not the pleasure thing. It seems to be a bit of a necessity when really wicked people, let's face it, World War II ultimately stopped the ovens of Dachau. That's a good thing, but that doesn't mean that it should have been done lightly and that people getting killed is not a big deal. It's a huge deal, and so even when it's pixels, I get that, even when it's very artistically presented, we're taking the life of an image bearer, and I just don't think we should be doing that. This recent study from Psychology Today, that's right, we're using something from Psychology Today. Again, the role of secular psychology in the Christian life is let them observe. Let them spend the money on doing research. And that way, Lifeway could cut back a bit. Here's what it said. In one of the most well-known studies to demonstrate violent media makes kids more aggressive, this is all the way back in the 1960s. Researchers showed preschoolers a video of an adult playing with an inflatable doll. In the video, the kids watched as the adult sat on the doll, punched it in the nose, hit the doll on the head with a mallet, and kicked it repeatedly. They watched the video. The kids were brought into a playroom with the same doll and other toys. Supplies. The kids who watched the aggressive video imitated what they saw. They beat the doll with a mallet. They punched and kicked it. More surprising was that the kids found new and creative ways to beat up the doll. You see, you want the new generation to supersede the current generation. And they do. They played more aggressively with the other toys in the room as well. Children didn't just imitate the behaviors they saw. Seeing aggressive behavior caused these kids to play more aggressively in general. You say, well, that's 1963. Kids have changed. Nah. Very recent research suggests it's the same, especially when guns are involved. Ohio State University brought pairs of 18 to 12-year-old children into a lab. And by the way, if right now you're going, oh, leave guns alone, you would be missing the mark on what I'm trying to say. Of the 18 to 12-year-olds brought into a lab, showed them a 20-minute version of a popular PG-rated movie, either The Rocketeer or National Treasure. In the edited movie, the kids either saw actual movie footage, which contained characters using guns, or where the guns were edited out. They were then presented with a large room that contained various toys, including Legos, Nerf guns, and games. Surprise! The children who watched the movie with the guns played more aggressively than children who watched the movie with the guns edited out. All that to say, Mom and Dad, be aware. It's all I can tell you. Hold on, one more, and this is where it might get laborious. Nevertheless, playroom, different setting, contained a closed cabinet where in the drawers was a real .38 caliber handgun. Not loaded, modified. 27% of the kids, most of the kids found it. 83% of the kids found the gun in the cabinet. 20% of them gave it to the experimenter, and the person took it out of the room. In other words, they went, this isn't something a kid should have. Here, you take this. 27%. None of the kids who watched the movie clips, so this is a different group of kids, without guns ever pulled the trigger. So when they didn't see it modeled for them, they didn't pull the trigger. The kids who watched the movie that contained gun footage were more likely to pull the trigger of the real gun. On average, they pulled it 2 to 3 times and spent 4 to 5 times longer holding it when compared to the kids who didn't watch the movies with the gun footage. It gets scarier. Some of these kids pulled the trigger 20 times. One child pointed the gun out the window at people walking down the street, and another child pressed the gun to another child's temple and pulled the trigger. Okay. Laborious lecture over. I think we get the point. Don't we? What we put into our kids' minds affects them. Was just talking this morning to the good folks over at the Dove Network. Every month I get to spend some time with them. And Perry Atkinson was lamenting the statistics of the kids that we're losing to the culture, that are just rejecting their worldview. We were pondering why, and I say it's summarized in a word: catechesis. Catechesis. What we put into those kids' noggins, it stays there. It affects them. Catechesis is the way that we used to raise kids. Question and answer, question and answer, question and answer. Give us the Bible verse. And we were told by educators that somehow infiltrated Christian education, hey, drill and kill, don't make the kids think like that. That's too much work for them. You got to make it cool. The kids these days, they can't focus anymore. Oh, yeah, they can. If they can play a violent video game for 17 hours a day, which many of them do, they can spend a few minutes memorizing something from the Bible. May I challenge you again, dear Mom and Dad, how you work this out? I have to confess I'm weary from books that tell me exactly how to spend my day raising my kids, and encouragement to figure out a system in your home where perhaps you cut back some electronic, eliminate the violent, reconsider the messages that subvert your authority. I'll tell you, we're punching ourselves right in the head, are we not? Well, we're busy, so we got to give the kids something to do. So we put them in front of the TV, give them a game, or have them watch something on the internet that tells them, don't submit to your parents, in essence. And then we spend the rest of the day at war with our own kids. Consider cutting it out. Yep, you will be those parents. And instead replace it with things that are lofty, noble, godly, and good. You figure this out for your home. I figure it out for mine. And maybe, just maybe, the statistic of 60 to 80% of kids who grow up and leave the faith or live in your basement till they're 34 might just change. But that would mean us admitting we've got to do it the way that those old fogies who we kind of thought knew nothing. It turns out, what do you know? Maybe those who went before us were a little smarter than we thought. But then that would mean we have to admit that and submit to them too. Until tomorrow, go serve your king. Shout out to our gospel partners. It is your ongoing monthly support that allows us to do Wretched Radio every single day and provide the broadcast, the entire program, for free to anybody on iTunes, Android, or at our website. Thank you for being a gospel partner. If you enjoy or benefit from Wretched Radio, would you please consider joining those partners so that we can continue to preach the gospel? Simply visit wretched.org.